What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Standpoint Podcast. This is episode 33. With me is my co-host Jordan Bohannon. Jordan, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Kind of same old over here. How's life? Postseason, potentially post-college career. How you been keeping busy lately, and what have you been up to?
It's been probably the busiest I've ever been. Just having meetings and um, whatnot throughout the day. So, it's another thing to touch on though. Crazy, we're on episode 33, man. 33 weeks of content we've been putting out since probably last August we started
Yeah.
approaching that 100,000 downloads mark. It's pretty wild how much growth we've had, and really appreciate everyone that's tuned in throughout. This almost going to be a year. So it's probably going to come up pretty soon here.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. It's been a great ride. Looking forward to a lot of great guests today, and a lot of good content coming forward, and a lot of exciting stuff to look forward to. But today, as you could see, we have an Iowa legend. We have probably one of the most, I would say, probably one of the most famous or most well-known supporters of a school in the country. This guy could probably replace the Hawkeye and Herky as the Iowa logo. It could be the Iowa Hawkeye Elvises. But with us today is with the one, the only Hawkeye Elvis. How are you doing today?
Hey, Zach, I'm doing really good, man. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Really excited about this. You've seen so much stuff. You've been an Iowa fan for so long. You've been such a, important part to the program, and a lot of the athletes out there respect you. And a lot of the time when they think of Iowa, when people think of Iowa, they think of you. So I guess kind of my first question, just diving in here, is how did this all get started? When did you turn from Greg to Hawkeye Elvis, and just kind of talk about that evolution?
Sure, it's crazy because I never set out for it to be all this. It's evolved into this naturally. I've always been an Elvis fan. I would listen to my mom's Elvis 78s and 45s when I was a kid. So mom loves Elvis, and I grew up. You grew up in Iowa, you like the Hawkeyes or the Cyclones, and I grew up in an era where Lute Olson was the basketball coach and Hayden Fry was the football coach. So it just, as a sports fan, you're sort of drawn to that. 2009, I go to the Iowa game. I've had football season tickets forever, and everybody had these great Hawkeye costumes on, Hawkeye themed Halloween costumes. So I go back to my mom's house. I'm like, can you make me an Elvis jumpsuit that's black and gold with Tiger Hawks? And she's like, yeah. So the next year, 2010, we played Michigan State that day. That was the day of the Tyler Sash lateral to Micah Hyde interception. And the first time I put on the wig and sunglasses, the jumpsuit, and everybody really got a kick out of it. So then I wore it to one basketball game that year. And then the next year I'd wear it to one or two football games and one or two basketball games. And then more times than not, when I wouldn't dress up, people would be like, where's Elvis? We need him here today. For me, I think just as far as visibility, it really took off from that North Carolina game when we played down there a few years ago.
It's pretty wild. You kind of create your own little brand almost that everyone recognizes you on, and you've kind of grown quite a bit on social media too because of, not only because of your brand, but also because of the person you are. So touch on that about how you kind of have grown throughout the years because of that.
Somebody was talking about Twitter and how they understand it. And I said, listen, Twitter's just a game, like any other game. Once you figure out how to play it, you get to be pretty good at it. And so, there's not a lot of delineation between my personality and Hawkeye Elvis. I really think they're one and the same. And whenever I say stuff on social media, that's me saying it, and that's how I feel. And it's not that hard to be nice to people. Sometimes it is, but as far as the athletes and whatnot knowing who I am, I'm honored that anybody knows who I am, let alone the guys and women who are out in the field or the court, busting their ass for Iowa every day. So it's just, I am who I am, and on Twitter and social media, and that's how I feel.
Can you walk us through, like, I'm trying to think here. So can you explain your relationship with the players? When did it start taking off? Because I know on social media, you are interacting with all the players, and you definitely have a good bond and like rapport going on. But I would say, when did I guess this relationship with the players start happening, and when were you kind of like basically like an initiated member of the team, I would say?
Again, I'm honored that some of those guys follow me and think that way. It's funny because Margaret McCaffrey, Fran's wife, is my cousin, and the day that Fran
Oh,
got
okay.
the job, that was the day I bought my season tickets for Iowa basketball. And it's interesting though, because the relationships that I've developed with the players has been really organic, and once they start on campus, that's when I start following them on social media. And I think Nicholas Bear was one of the first guys to follow me back, which I got a kick out of. And then Jordan, I remember you followed me back the night we played up at Sanford Pentagon and beat Colorado that night. But the other thing is, it's interesting because I think some of those relationships develop because sometimes, especially for road games, I'll sit with the parents. And I got to know Josh Ogilvy's mom that way, and Tyler Cook's parents, and just some of the moms and dads, and just talk with them about how much I appreciate, what their children are doing and what they're doing, and the heat that people have to take, because it's kind of ridiculous sometimes. And I think there was one game a few years ago it was a home game against Northwestern, and afterwards I just happened to go to Flanagan's afterwards, and that's where the post game sort of party was taking place. And so I walked in, and all the players were there and stuff, and I got a chance to talk to these guys. And it's not it's not any different than how I would I treat my other relationships. I really respect and appreciate everything, Jordan, that you do, and all the people at the University of Iowa do. And so it's funny that they keep following me and liking me, and I'm having fun with it.
I do remember that Colorado game. That was one of the greatest Hawkeye environments I've ever been in, and that's saying a lot because it's been a lot of cool places. But touching on that, what do you enjoy most? Going to let's say the conference tournament, dressing up as Hawkeye Elvis, or being in the home environment around all the fans in your costume? Which one's better?
I think just maybe for me, the home environment, walking the Carver, is a little bit better, just because this year was only the second time I'd been to the conference tournament dressed up, and this year, as was really weird, but it was so good to be back in the building where people and other fans could watch you guys play. But there's just something special about Carver, just because I know so many people in there, the staff, the security people, I'm friends with a lot of the media people. And every time I walk in there, I'm so happy to see everybody. And even if it's just for a few minutes, and talk to them and shake their hand and see how they're doing. So, for me, the home games are the best.
Can you explain how this relationship grew with Frank Garza, and just walk us through how basically just road trip happened, like just this dynamic duo that overtook Indianapolis happened, and just basically how it began?
There's a little bromance there for a while in Indianapolis.
Oh, absolutely. So again, it's funny because I think I first met Frank at Minnesota, because I always go to the Minnesota game, but I don't ever dress up there, just because I'm sitting so close to the bench and down there, and I just want to sit and watch and not sort of be a distraction. And so a couple of years ago, I happened to be sitting close to Frank, and I knew who he was, obviously, and introduced myself, and then he and I would we'd chat whenever we'd see each other. But I think a little bit of a spark came after the Big Ten tournament in Chicago a couple of years ago, after Michigan had knocked us out. I'm still dressed up, and Frank came into this little place across the street where we were staying, and we just we hit it off. Frank's a big personality. I'm obviously got some personality to be able to do all this all the time, and it just kind of took off from there. But the whole Indianapolis trip was next level, because he was talking. It's like I was down, and I think it was for the Rutgers game on a weeknight. And Frank said, "You know what? We should just get a house for the Big Ten tournament, the NCAA tournament, since it was all going to be in Indianapolis." And I kind of laughed, and I came home, because I'd had hotel reservations to come down for that. And I told my wife that, and she's like, "Oh, you need to see if you can get in on that." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I texted Frank. I'm like, "Hey, if you end up, whatever your housing stuff in, if you want another body or somebody to split it up with, I'm in." And so then it ended up it just ended up being me and Frank. And I'm like, "Well, how are you getting to Indianapolis?" Like, "Well, I'm going to fly." I'm like, "Well, I'm going to be in Iowa City and drive over. Just ride with me." And so he's like, "Okay." So it started off that way. And it's funny too, because I think there was a night last year after one of the games where I met up with Frank and Rich Kriener, I think Ash's dad and we were all going out. And people were stunned that Frank and I would know each other and hang out. But at the end of the day, we're just a bunch of dads. We're sitting and hanging out. So no, it's been great, and it's been so much fun for me to be, part of this and just experience it as well.
You also had Ryan Kriener join you guys for a little stint there, as he's behind you right now. So talk about that, his mannequin self being there with you guys.
Again, this is one of those things that just took on a life of its own. I bought that jersey from a site called The Player's Trunk last year. And I've got other memorabilia and stuff around my house. And I thought, well, I don't want to frame it because I was trying to figure out a different way to display it. And one day on Twitter, I saw someone who had a bunch of hockey jerseys and they had like mannequin torsos. I'm like, oh, that's a cool way to display a jersey. So I'm like, okay, where the hell am I going to find a mannequin? So I started looking around, can't find anything. And then a friend of mine in Ames calls me and says, hey, one of the retail stores at the mall is going out of business and they're selling mannequins. Do you want one? I'm like, hell yes, I want one. So it was like $50. And here's where the story takes on a life of its own. His son is my nephew, and he's a manager on the baseball team. So he's going to school at Iowa. They drive it over to Iowa City on March 6th. We carry it through the hotel lobby, and I put the jersey and the shorts on it, and oh look, I thought since Ryan didn't get to have a Big Ten or NCAA tournament last year, I want him there in spirit. So thought it'd be fun to just take and have. And I brought so much shit from my house for the Airbnbs that we had in Indianapolis. You would have thought you were in Iowa City, and then having the mannequin in the back of my car, somebody else commented, and I was like, what the hell is that? I'm like, oh, it's mannequin Ryan Kriener. Like everybody should know what it is. And then I would just, sitting around the apartment or the house, I'm like, something would happen. Like I'd get up and start singing One Shining Moment and hanging out with the mannequin. Then the guy who wrote One Shining Moment actually liked that tweet. So I'm like, okay, well, let's keep going with this. What can I do next to have some fun with it? So it just grew from there. And, every time I could, do something with it or add another layer to the story, people got a kick out of it.
Awesome.
So in your career, you've obviously been around a lot of Hawkeyes, Jordan excluded, obviously, but which Hawkeyes do you think you've had the best relationship with, and which guys do you think really are a good, representation of Iowa and the basketball team, and which guys kind of hold the special place in your heart, as I'm trying to say, from past or current players?
Sure. I love Nicholas Bear. I just because of who he is on and off the court, and he came to, they do, well, they're going to do them again, but they did those things where the traveling iClub meetings where like a player and maybe Coach McCaffrey or Coach Ferentz or Lisa Bluter, one of them and a couple of athletes would travel around, and maybe they go to Osage or, these little towns and go to the county iClub meeting. And this is right after Nicholas was done. And so the Boone County iClub in Boone, Iowa, that's where my mom lives. Coach Ferentz is there. I think Tom Brands was there, and Nicholas Bear was there. And Nick's clearly the tallest person there. Everybody knows who he is. And he grabs and he puts on a name tag. I'm like, I think everybody knows who you are, man. You don't need to wear that name tag. So that was kind of fun. Another guy I've been fortunate to connect with is Cordell Pencil. Talk about a guy who really learned and grew as a person. Everybody knows what happened last year with the run-in with the law that he had and missing the game and stuff. And then he came back out against Minnesota last year and just gave everything he had. And I went up and talked to him afterwards, and I said, you showed what kind of a person you are, because you made a mistake, you owned up to it, and then you went out and made amends for it and grew from it. And that's what more can you ask for from someone than that, than the way that, he represented and held himself after a really difficult set of circumstances.
Yeah, that's really hard to do, especially knowing Cordell for so long and how he struggled with it. I think that was awesome to, he really had a family to rally around him. And I think that's pretty special. It says a lot about you. It says a lot about, majority of the Hawkeye fans that are tremendously passionate about this team and about, teams across the university. Let's talk about the minority of the Hawkeye fans. Very small. We've talked about it before many times on this podcast. I called them the loud minority. I don't think it's a lot of fans. maybe it might not even be fans at all, some trolls out there. Talk about the downside of social media a little bit and how it's kind of grown into this very toxic place on social media.
Well, you know this better than anybody, Jordan, with the crap that you've had to take over the years. One night you go out and you hit 7 threes and like, oh well, you got lucky. What? And then you have nights where you go out and you have an off game, and that sucks. And the thing that I've always told the parents when I've met them and had the chance to talk with them is, how thick of a skin you guys have. Because here's the other thing too. A lot of you guys don't realize it never used to be this way. I mean, if, back in the 80s and 90s, there just wasn't this constant fishbowl exposure. And, you'd go out and have a good game or a bad game, and then that was it until the next week. There wasn't this constant media spotlight and media attention on you. But you said it, these guys are a minority, and unfortunately they're the loudest minority. And, I don't generally get into Twitter fights. It's pointless. You're never going to change anybody's mind on that. But the one point I've always sort of stuck to is, listen, I know if everybody's pissed off after a loss. If you're pissed off and you want to rant online or whatever, fine. Don't attack the players personally. That's always been the one thing I've told anybody. And I've had some people come back and say, well, you can't tell me what kind of a fan I'm supposed to be. I have the right to be angry and question coaching decisions. And I'm like, I'm not saying you don't have that. You question the coaches, you play armchair quarterback all you want. I'm never, ever going to tell anybody the kind of fan they are supposed to be. All I can do is be the fan that I am. But that being said, man, the last thing, Jordan, you need, or Spencer Petras, or anybody needs, is some asshole from their basement going, oh, this guy sucks, and I don't know why he's on the court, and I can't wait till he's gone. I just have never understood that mentality.
I completely agree. And even from my perspective, obviously being a fan too, and, even before knowing Jordan, when I'm knowing Jordan, and just, it's insane how you see, like you said, the people are with you with your highs and, your awesome, great game, like you're a legend. And then it's like when bad games happen, you suck. Like, why are you on the court? And it's crazy how much and how fast it changes like that. And I think that partly one of the reason why we wanted to even start this podcast and just really have this conversation going is to let people know that these are people. And I'm sure, as you've seen throughout the years, and you get to know these people and their family and their, these are normal people. These are people who have feelings, they have emotions, they go through the same thing you go through. It's like, how would you feel if someone, started attacking you on Twitter and coming at your morals and said you're a bad person just because you had a bad game of basketball? It's like insane. And Jordan always brings it up. It's like, I don't sit here and, I'm not watching you at your day job or something, or watching how you go, and I'm not critiquing you and going on Twitter and being like, you messed this spreadsheet up, you suck, you blah blah blah, like this project you did was awful. And it's like, you don't get that. So it's kind of like a double standard type thing going on. And I do agree. And I guess my question is, when did you start seeing this shift and transfer start happening from, social media being a place where you can go to talk with people of similar interests and, really root for teams? And when did you see that shift of, okay, like this is getting a little out of hand here?
Probably the last 3 or 4 years. And I don't think it's limited to just Twitter or sports. I think overall, the last 3 or 4 years, people have felt emboldened to go out and say things on the internet, because they know for the most part there aren't going to be any repercussions or consequences of that. And people are always going to get away with whatever they think they can get away with until somebody catches their hand in the cookie jar or slaps them back down. The thing that I've always tried to say too, especially at the end of a season, is at the end of the day, college athletes don't owe me, the fan, anything. Jordan, you guys don't owe me a single thing as a fan. You don't owe me your best effort. You don't owe me representing the state. You don't owe me any of that stuff. Now, you guys, I think, you owe it to yourself. You owe it to your coaches and your teammates. That's who you owe something to. That's who you owe your best effort to, or your hard work and determination. But the fans, we aren't owed anything. And I think so many people forget it's a privilege to be able to go watch you guys play and take a few hours off out of whatever else is going on in our lives and sit and enjoy a sporting contest. At the end of the day, it's a game. And I don't say that to diminish the hours hard work, sacrifice you guys make. Because I mean, clearly, especially you, Jordan, what you've done over the years, but for me, the fan, we have to realize it's a game, and no matter how upset we can be about a loss or something bad happening, it's tenfold on the players and coaches.
Just to add a quick question, Jordan. I mean, interrupt you, which I do a lot, but so my question is: so you get the interesting perspective of knowing the parents, right? And obviously, they're not in the mud always with the players. They're not always on Twitter. They're not always on social media. So maybe they kind of see things from a macro view or bird's eye view. How do people like Rich Kriener and Frank Garza does that stuff and what they see on Twitter bother them? Do they take it with a grain of salt, or what's that relationship with them? And do they kind of feel like the Papa Bear aspect, where I got to protect my own?
Anytime anybody says anything bad about your kid, it's going to bother you to a degree, whether it's true or not. So there's part of that, because you don't want anybody to say anything shitty about your kid ever, whether it's in private or whether it's in public. At the same time, I know that, they realize and people realize, listen, there's just, if you give these people any attention, that's what they're looking for. Oh, I got Frank Garza to yell at me on Twitter, or I got Rich or somebody like that. I remember talking with Josh Ogilvy's mom. I was talking to her once about it. And she wanted to fire back at people who were going after Josh. And her daughter's like, no, Mom, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't feed into it. Because that's what they're looking for. And, they also realize, and Jordan, I'm sure your parents are the same way, but they, especially having three brothers who've already gone through the D1 fishbowl, the spotlight you're putting yourself into. And, there's a lot of perks that come with that spotlight, but there's a lot of heat. You guys have sort of toughened yourself up to be able to handle both.
The irony of it all is, touching on the aspect of college athletes and not being paid. It's one thing being critiqued for something that you're out there almost being a job for, which I believe, as anyone that I've been advocating for that for a long time, but we're out there, basically doing it for the love of the game, which is nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, I don't know if sports gambling in the last 3 to 4 years has intrigued more of this problem with toxicity throughout the world because of sports, but it's just been outrageous the last 3 to 4 years because of that. And I've been researching a lot of things with college athletes and advocating for it for the last couple of years now, and that's something that has been brought up, is the effect sports gambling has been on these college athletes and the all the critiques that they've been getting throughout the social media. I mean, there's been countless athletes now that just shut down, Twitter and Instagram,
Yep.
throughout the last couple of years now because of how bad it's gotten. So, I want you to talk about that a little bit as a fan. Do you take part in sports gambling? Do you bet on, I'm not saying Iowa, but throughout the other, sports, and how does that impact your feeling about the game? Because I know Zach is a huge sports gambler, loves sports gambling, is addicted to sports gambling.
I've lost a couple kneecaps on Jordan. Props.
We might have to get him some help. So throw out the 1-800 number here soon for him.
Yeah, Zach, it's 1-800-BETS-OFF, and they'll get you the help that you need.
We'll put that in the bio.
No, I do sports bet. I'll go to Vegas. I'm more of a card player than I am a sports better, though. I live in Minnesota, where I can't gamble on sports. I have friends in Iowa who, can bet on their sports app and things like that. But the key thing, Jordan, is how mainstream it's become. It used to be, God, it was almost forbidden to even talk about things like the spread during the broadcast. And guys like Brent Musburger, who's a huge sports gambler and handicapper, he'd be doing a game and there'd be like a really late score, and he'd say something effective, oh, well, that touchdown might be of great interest to some people. But now on ESPN, I mean, you think about Sports Channel, you have the flagship, you have the biggest sports channel in the world. And right there, along with, here's who's playing who, here's the time, here's who's injured, here's the spread, here's the over-under. Hell, ESPN has an entire daily show dedicated to nothing but sports betting. And they broadcast it from Las Vegas. And the fact that it's become so so mainstreamed, guys like you can't help but, you're a sports fan, you're watching to see what else is going on around the league and stuff like that. And if you're watching it, you're watching Michigan State because you're going to play those guys, you're going to be watching the game and go, oh, the spread's like 3.5 or something like that. And that, it's become part of the game. And there's a slippery slope there to keep you guys, from getting tangled up in that. And it's just, I don't know if it's one more thing that you guys don't need in your lives is some a-hole going, oh, God damn it, Jordan missed that 3 and the spread was 3.5, shit like that. Like, okay, dude, if the loss means that much to you, you shouldn't be gambling.
We need to do a segment sometime in the next couple months of looking through my DMs after games.
Oh, God.
I'm not joking you. The amount of people that bring up, oh, I had a prop bet of you scoring over 10 points. You suck. Why'd you miss that 3? I'm like, bro, are you kidding me right now? Like that's the majority of my DMs too, is rooted because of gambling. I'm like, people are nuts now. It's actually ridiculous. And I noticed the last couple years too.
It's funny because I saw a tweet, we were going through it because we did that mean tweets video and like looking through stuff. And someone's like Jordan Bohannon's a legend. I forgot what it was. We were just shooting these like dumb threes in the end of the game, and like you covered a spread or something, and they're like, Jordan Bohannon's like the greatest Hawkeye ever. Like he covered the spread, and you look at the guy's bio, and he's from like Boston. It's like so funny because like it's like you said. It really started with this whole like nucleus of people in the Midwest, Iowa fans, like interacting with each other. And then you get the people in Ames and Minnesota who like to, like talk crap, and you get this dialogue. And then you get like Steve from Boston, who's like at the bar putting like a spread parlay, and he's got Jordan into it. And now he's the #1 Jordan Bohannon enemy in the world. And it's like, where you came out of nowhere. It's like, so that's like you said, it adds a layer. And it's like, what?
It's interesting. If I can go off, I'm going to go off on a tangent for a second. We talk about all the bad, negative stuff on Twitter. That's all there. But man, I'll tell you what, I have gotten to know and meet some wonderful, wonderful people only because, I decided to dress up as Elvis and be on Twitter. Some very good people that I'm going to be lifelong friends with. Hell, Jordan, I don't know that you and I would sort of have the interactive relationship that we've had I not been on Twitter. Just to have the fun interaction. Zach, there was a home game last year. I wasn't dressed up because I just coming off knee surgery. Jordan was coming off his hip surgery. And the two of us are just standing down, on the floor pregame, hanging out, watching guys warm up and shooting the breeze. And he's coming up, the kids are coming up and getting autographs from him and stuff like that. But it's cool to have that type of relationship. One of the coolest things, Jordan, you've ever done in your life, as far as I'm concerned, at the Vegas tournament after we knocked out Texas Tech, that whole weekend was my birthday weekend. It was my 50th birthday, and I got front row floor seats for me and all my friends and dressed up for the whole thing. And at the end of that first game, we knocked off Texas Tech. Jordan's dribbling out the clock. He sees me. He comes over to the baseline. I get up and we high five on the floor. Still to this day is one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me.
That was awesome. I remember that to this day. I don't even think the clock hit 0 yet. I was so dribbling. I was literally touching your hand on the sideline, and I'm dribbling with my left hand while the clock is going on.
And the funny thing is too, you set the ball down, and you guys went off the floor, and me and all my friends, came out on the baseline to get a picture. And one of them says, "Oh, there's the game ball. We should get the game ball in there." So we pick it up, and we're getting a picture taken with the game ball. And the officials for the second game are like, where the hell's the ball? Oh, here you go, guys. We're kind of pissed off, like we were going to try to steal the game ball or something.
I do want to root back to the social media, how you said many positives that do come out of it, interacting with some great people, because that's what keeps me on Twitter. If it wasn't for that, obviously I wouldn't even be engaging in it. And I feel like there is a lot of positives that can come out of Twitter, like you said, and the people that I've met and interacted with, and I've made connections with, the past year even, its root of it has been Twitter, because, there is a lot of positives. And that's, watching, families send me, during Christmas Day, their kids open up a jersey that's mine, and, seeing the positivity and excitement and energy around that's the root cause of me just staying on Twitter and being able to interact with those families. So I do agree with that, because it does have a lot of positives out there to, be engaged with.
Yeah, there's a guy by the name of Isaiah Scales, who's from Iowa originally, and he's the president of the LAI Club. He and his wife Jessica are wonderful people. I actually met Jessica first because I work in commercial real estate, and she does too. And we met at a conference. Like, you're Hawkeye Elvis. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh, my husband and I love you, and I've gotten to know them. Would I have met them otherwise? Maybe because of a work thing, but. I got my current tailgating spot a block from Stella because of the people that I met on Twitter. And there's, you find so many more like-minded people who are going to, do the right things and support the right things. And again, look at I'll tell you another great thing about social media, some of the fundraising opportunities, that everyone has done on here. It's just been amazing. And I don't think some of those opportunities would have been around, otherwise without people who needed help and stuff. And they've reached out on social media, and the response they've got has always been heartwarming.
That's a really valid point. And like Jordan said, they call it like the silent or the loud minority. And there's so much good stuff. And I mean, that. And I feel like it's easy to overlook it, and we get so used to and accustomed to it. And it is a great place, I mean, we're not saying to like get off social media and like be a hermit. Like it's a great place. And I'll tell you what, like interacting with you during game days and other people out there, and just like having this, it almost feels like in a year with no fans, like I felt like we had our own little community, and like, everyone was talking and like shooting the shit. And it was like, it felt like you're watching with other people, and it's like a really cool feeling, and it's a really awesome opportunity. And like you said, the fundraising, I mean, that by itself is worth it, and a lot of great opportunities. And I know Jordan, has done a lot of stuff back then. You've done a lot of stuff, and it's just really, really cool just to like see a multifaceted platform where one day you could just be, joking around and having a mannequin. Another day you're like having a fundraiser and you're helping change someone's life. And it's amazing the versatility of one platform, right, Jordan?
Yeah, for sure. And I know you wanted to give a shout out, and me as well. Anthony, correct? That was battling.
That's Aaron Boniface.
Aaron Boniface. Sorry,
Aaron Boniface is one of the biggest Iowa fans, Jordan, and you're his favorite player. He was battling cancer, got discharged from the hospital. He's on the plus side. So hey, one more kid just kicked cancer's ass, and Aaron, we couldn't be prouder of you, man.
Hell yeah, Aaron, that's awesome. I'm really happy that you're a huge supporter. Love that. I'm hopefully if this gets to you and you're listening, everyone's praying for you. You have so many people behind you. This Iowa community is so great on backing each other up when there's challenging times. Hawkeye Elvis, myself, Zach, are praying for you, your family. Keep kicking cancer's ass. Proud of you, and looking forward to hopefully meeting you someday.
And just to kind of wrap everything up, we really appreciate you taking the time to come on this. You are a bit larger than life personality, but also a really genuine good guy, and that's a really good thing. And I'm really happy to be a part of a fan base, especially with guys like you and like spearheading it. And I'm sure Jordan could say the same. Just like I feel like the whole Iowa community is just so like wholesome and very like real and genuine. And I mean, I've seen other fan bases and gone to other games, and it's just, you don't get the same feeling. And it's really cool experience. And Jordan, I'm sure that these last couple of years have just been like a blessing just to be able to like have these genuine people around you supporting you.
Yeah. It's just this like small town feel, like, and that's what makes Iowa so special, the University of Iowa. And I mean, yes, I'll say something nice about Iowa State. It's the same thing with Ames there. I hate that city to the core of my body. I wouldn't be mad if that campus wasn't there anymore, but I'm very, very blessed with this university that I've been a part of, because people like yourself and many others that I've met and interacted with throughout the years that have changed my life. And as vague that is to sound, it's the truth. I wouldn't be the person I am today without the people I interacted with, the people I continue to talk to. And the last 4 or 5 years has been just unreal, being able to interact with these people, because like I said, it's that small town feel that makes this university so great, so beautiful. Being around downtown, eating out at a restaurant, going to games, seeing people before games, especially like yourself. And that's something I want to kind of gateway into. Before we wrap things up, I want to talk about I know we already brought this up when it happened, the podcast after, but probably the greatest thing, I might even tear up just talking about this, but having yourself be present on Christmas night. We're walking off the bus, going to the Minnesota game. It was a tough day. Let me tell you, it was a very, very tough day leading up to the game, not being with my family, not being, around, my mom, my dad, my brothers during that time. Same thing with, everyone on the team. And walking off the bus and seeing you dressed up in the Hawkeye Elvis outfit. Fans weren't allowed during Christmas game at Minnesota, and something that will forever live in my head, in my heart. And I just want to personally say thank you for that, because that was very, very, very special. And that needs to be known from the outside of what you did, because that was just extraordinary.
Well, thank you, Jordan. And I got the idea from you, because leading into that week, I was fortunate. My daughter had come home from college to visit. My mom had come up from Iowa to visit. And I think earlier in the week, you had put out a tweet. People were going back and forth about, oh, well, are you the essential workers and whatnot? You said, listen, we're playing a game on Christmas night in an empty building and without any of our family. We didn't get to see our family on Christmas. And I thought, yeah, playing in Minnesota is a tough place to go. Fortunately, I know my way around up there, and I found out what time the bus was going to come. And I'm like, Mom, you want to go? You want to go down and just see the players get off the bus? And my mom's like, yeah, let's go. So, no, Mom and I bundled up and went out there, and we were just, if nothing else, I thought you and everybody else in that bus needed to see one familiar, friendly face to say Merry Christmas and go Hawks as you walk into the building. So I'm happy I could do that for you.
I know he makes it sound so like it wasn't a big deal, but I don't, like you said, I don't think you realize how much of a big deal that was. And
I appreciate that.
It's truly special, really special.
And I think in the future, I think we're going to try and coordinate something. You can maybe see Jordan, Zach, and Hawkeye Elvis maybe at Kinnick this upcoming fall with a couple of beers in our hand, cheering on Hawkeye. So
absolutely.
I'd love to have a little meetup and have a couple of drinks, because, like I said, I mean, I feel like I've known you already, and you're a genuine guy. You're a great guy. And I think that a lot of things you stand for, and, how you show yourself and present yourself, on social media and in person in the game, is just like how, a normal person who has a heart and a fan and fandom, and just a genuine person should be. And I really appreciate that. And I'm sure Jordan, like you said, appreciates that, and all the players. It's just a very lucky situation, and really thankful to have you on today.
Hey, Zach, I appreciate it. I think you guys can correct me, but I think I'm the first actual fan to be on the show.
Yes. We do want to make that known. You're the first fan, first audience member, first listener of this podcast to be on here. You're making extraordinary strides. Never been done before. And it's happening right now.
Jordan brought it up, and then you brought it up, and I remember we were thinking about guests, and he's like, yeah, we're Hawkeye Elvis. I'm like, oh shit, no brainer. That was just so easygoing. He's a great guy. I mean, sometimes you have to worry about guests and being how's their sense of humor? Are they gonna be talkative? And I was like, this will just be so fun and easy, and just be just shooting the shit with the guys. So again, thank you again for coming on here and giving us your time, guys. Make sure to keep listening, subscribing, give us those ratings, 5-star ratings, those reviews. Keep an eye out for some great content coming from us going forward, and go Hawks, and we'll see you guys next week.
Go Hawks, baby.